Welcome to Into the Blue, presented by Penelope Bourbon, a weekly look behind the scenes of the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Into the Blue, sponsored by our good friends at Penelope Bourbon. I'm Ben Pierce here with my good friend Julie Stewart-Binks, and today we are here on a wonderful national holiday. Today's Monday, January 19th, and the Lightning streak lives on, the point streak that is Tampa Bay, 12-0-1 in their last 13 games. The Julie Stewart-Binks, good luck charm she is. The points keep coming on the road since Julie has arrived. The Lightning lead the NHL with a .962 points percentage since December 20th. Their 12 wins, also the most in the NHL. And the biggest thing for this team right now, 2.23 goals against per game. That's the key. They're playing good defense. They're getting good goaltending. And Julie, since you've arrived, we are looking at one of the best defensive teams in the NHL. So what's your secret? Let's hear it. What's your good luck charm?
Well, Ben, I'm really glad you brought that up because I've been working really, really hard to make sure that this team is doing really well, and I've been putting in a A++ effort, and we're getting rewarded, and it's all about one moment, one shift, working as hard as you can. And that's what I've been doing. And
is that your pregame speech to the team? Is that what you're saying before every game to the guys?
It's what is it? It's I was going to do the Eminem thing, but it's way too early for me to remember any of that. The mom spaghetti speech for those who obviously know it. I am a road warrior, so I would like to say maybe some of my home right now is currently Tampa, but I have had a lot of people when I've been in different rinks. Like when I was in St. Louis, this guy came up to me who worked for the Blues, ice clearing staff, and he was like, so there's this bar in Clearwater, and I can't remember the name of it, and I was like, bro, I'm sorry, like I'm the last person you should be asking about this right now, because like I may work for this team, but I live in New York and I'm from Toronto. So like, you don't want to complicate things too much, but yes, anyway, the road is where I live, and that is where the streak, of course, right now and at home for Tampa Bay Lightning has been really great. And I think it's really great to watch because it's so fascinating when you get to observe teams up close. And first and foremost, I will say the vibes, and we can say this generally. So many teams like to say this, like, oh, the vibes are great. It's like, no, the vibes are really great amongst all of them. Like they all really, really like each other. You can tell that. I talked to Guentzel, and he said the leadership group really does a great job of like planning events, doing stuff with like their families when they're home, and like just everyone's kind of in the mix, and they always like to razz each other. And they always like, Nick Paul loves to razz Gage about his haircut, but then Gage is like, but we both go to the same barber. And there's like a nice little like riff between everyone in there. And it's a lot of fun. And even when they lost in the shootout against St. Louis, I mean, they faced like Hofer, a Hall of Famer, basically.
That game was nuts.
He felt like that guy was not letting anything pass him. And it was just like one of those nights. And so the interesting part about the win streak ending, then not the point streak, but the win streak, was there's a lot of pressure behind this win streak continuing. Like it's a great little sort of catnip throughout the season, because the season can get so arduous while you're trying to really make it to the postseason when everything really matters. But as we know, everything's really tight in the East right now, so all points matter. But it's like it kind of let the pressure out in a way. Like I talked to some of the guys about it, where it's like, okay, we got to get the win streak going, keep the win streak going. But then it's like, okay, it ended, but like, we're still okay. Like we still played really well. We still got a point. Like there is another day, there is another tomorrow. And so it kind of reminded them like, oh, okay, everything's going to be okay, even though we didn't keep that win streak going. And, would you have liked to? Of course. But I did like the even keelness, and everyone was okay afterwards. I think it was because, again, as everyone has said, from John Cooper down to, all the players, like it's been so much about how they've been playing. And when you know that, if that's the structure you have, if that is the mindset, if that is the overarching like theme in the room, and you guys all know exactly what your roles are, as we know, if you know expectations, whether that's in a job, whether that's in a relationship, whatever it is, like then you know what your job is, and you know when you're on track or when you're off track. And so when that communication is seamless, like everyone just knows, okay, like that's what I got to do, or like I got to do that better. I know exactly that kind of thing. And so you felt that back then when they went to Dallas, like the next game. And of course that one early goal wasn't great, and I'd say those both of those two games showed resilience, like being able to come back, right? Like come back on the road when you're down is really a great hallmark of great teams, right? And so that building in Dallas was silent. I will say, other than that first goal, of course, it was just like, I mean, it was kids' day too. So like I don't know if kids know when to like cheer for certain things. Um, so it was just kind of and it was an afternoon game, so maybe people were kind of a little tired, but man, that building was silent. And a lot of the guys around the rink were like, I don't know what's wrong with this Dallas team. Like, we just can't do anything right now. And it's fascinating to hear other people's opinions about their teams, right? Because, like, we would look at Dallas and be like, well, okay, sure, they've had a hard time at home recently over the last couple weeks, but they're one of the best teams in the league. They've got all these, like, offensive threats, da-da-da-da. But, like, they weren't able to get past the Lightning. And let me go back to the defensive side of stuff. And Vasilevsky, I think I know that Vazzy's been on this team for a really long time and he's done a lot of great things, but sometimes I watch games and I'm like, that guy deserves a lot more credit than like we give him. Like, it's hard to kind of keep figuring out how to describe how good he is and how much he has, how calm he is, how it's like you can kind of just rely on this incredible goaltender to do his job all the time. And when he made that save on Jason Robertson, like the breakaway save,
Yep,
that
4-on-4, the
that
breakaway.
just like that felt like that was a game saving save, right? Like that changed a whole lot of that momentum, obviously. And then of course they're able to even up the tally. So I'd say the interesting part about talking to Rob Zettler was their defensive game. He said is like, our goal is to keep teams in so they do not get past the red line. Like our goal is like, do not get out of their zone. Like their defensive zone. We keep them in, we hem them in, we do as much as we can. And when we talked about JJ Moser, I said, kind of like what makes him effective. And he's like, he just disrupts everything. Like, he might not lay a big hit. He might not like, crush a guy, but he is going to angle guys in a way that they cannot do what they want to do. And I think that kind of like bodes for a lot of guys on the team where it's like, they are so smothering with their defense, their team defense, that a lot of teams just can't even break the puck out. And like when you have that going for you, then it is so easy to be able to, of course, the more offensive zone time you have, the more chances you're likely going to get. But like you're also going to be able to, if you have that mindset of being hard on guys, like forcing turnovers, and then as we know that those can lead to a great breakaway chance off the rush. We saw a couple of those in Dallas.
Yeah. You mentioned Andrei Vasilevsky. Quick note on that. Andrei Vasilevsky last night gets his 20th win of the season, by the way. 10th straight NHL season with 20 wins. He is only the 6th NHL goalie to do that in the league's history. And the other names on this list, it is a name full of NHL Hall of Famers. Henrik Lundqvist did it 13 straight times. Marty Brodeur and Tony Esposito both did it 12 times. Jacques Plante did it 10 times. And Chris Osgood did it 10 times. Obviously, Chris Osgood is not in the Hockey Hall of Fame. There are some people out there who believe he should be in the Hall of Fame. He certainly has the argument with the Stanley Cups. Detroit Red Wings, that team was stacked. Say what you will. Regardless, it is a list full of Hockey Hall of Famers, and it is an incredible list of goaltenders. Andrei Vasilevsky adds yet another notch in a belt of what's been a tremendous career, as you said, Julie. Just another example of the longevity of what's been a tremendous, tremendous career. And we'll get a little bit more into that defense side of it a little bit, because the conversation is going to continue about this Lightning blue line here later on the podcast. But kind of in that same breath, we obviously had seen a lot of conversation this year about injuries for this Lightning team. We did get some updates from John Cooper last week on Thursday. So obviously Braden Point was the big one we saw earlier this month. We had previously heard Braden Point is week to week and that he avoided the worst case scenario, which obviously is good news.
Yeah.
Cooper on Thursday last week did not have any further updates, but did say then that there was still time for a Team Canada decision. Obviously, you will be in Milan covering the Olympics. Yeah, no big deal. Not a big deal. So perhaps you will see Braden Point. Obviously, Lightning fans will hope that is the case, but the big thing is there is still time for that decision. Victor Hedman is skating on his own without a stick, but is not quite ready to practice with the team. And the Lightning are taking baby steps, is how John Cooper put it, with Ryan McDonough right now, and are looking big picture for down the road. The last thing we'll add here, defenseman Simon Lundmark is with the team as of Monday morning still. John Cooper mentioned that does allow the team to go 11-7, something we've seen this team do a lot over the last couple of years if they do run into any further injury. And we did see a goalie recall in Brandon Halverson. I'll let you touch on that, Julie, because obviously Brandon Halverson was here for a very short time, which is good news for this team.
Yes, and it was good news because the short time, not to discredit Brandon Halverson, but obviously for JoJo to be back and being at practice the other day and seeing the three goaltenders there, and it was good because we weren't really sure what had kind of, gone on with JoJo because, he was on the trip, but they had recalled Halverson. When I said there's no tomorrow, I think that was the goalie that's on the back of his helmet, Brandon Halverson, which I just saw when he was warming up right in front of me. But I wanted to share this little note that I talked to you about before the game. But before the Dallas game, all the guys are doing their activations, all this kind of stuff, and I'm just there, I don't know, going over my lines, going over what I'm thinking about for the game and whatever. And Jonas Johansson was just foam rolling, and then right above him was a TV that had NHL Network on, and they were playing Bolt's Beginnings, and it was of his Bolt's Beginnings back where he's from, and it's an hour long cut, which is great. And so he's looking at it, and I'm kind of looking at him wait a second, that's him up there right now, and he's watching it. And I just wish it was a contact. I was oh, I wish I could just get this shot of him just sort of watching himself up there in this interesting moment. And then all the team trainers, everyone's going around, we're watching it, and it was kind of a fun little moment before the game, and we're all seeing oh, is that your dad? Your dad looks really young, and there's all these different things. And so it was good. And it's funny because in Dallas, I don't know, when you're watching the broadcast, you can kind of see there's the tunnel where the guys come on from for the visiting team is also the tunnel where the backup goalie sits. So Jonas is there. That's also where I stand during the game. So if I'm doing a hit, and he's so well versed in okay, when there's a TV timeout, he gets off his little chair, moves it. He knows that I might be coming up there to do one little hit. There's almost we're also playing our own game. We don't even need to talk to one another.
Yeah.
He's I will move, and then you can go up there, and then they'll be no, Julie, we're not doing anything. And I'm okay, all right, back. And then we go back in space. So it's very tight in Dallas there, but we're all watching it together. And then the paramedics are so funny. They're talking to him during the game. They're so you're the backup goalie, so what, what's it like, and I'm thinking this is just so fascinating, and all these little nuances are what makes it great to be around the team and all that kind of stuff. But again, great to have him back, great to have him obviously doing well, but also good to know that Halverson is someone that they feel comfortable bringing up into the mix and backing up Vazzy. And yeah, I think I don't know what else you asked me, but as I'm very verbose with my answers, so don't ask me to tell you what I have for breakfast because I'll tell you like what it was every day of the week.
Yeah, I think you touched on everything. So that's great. But like I said, Jonas Johansson obviously has been tremendous for this team this year. Great to see that he's healthy. And like you said, this team has a lot of faith in Brendan Halverson if we do see him in net. We saw him for what? I think it was like 15 seconds earlier this year when we had an equipment issue. So technically has played a game this year. Did not make a save, I don't believe, in that game, but has entered a game this year.
You never know, right? You never know.
If necessary, the Lightning do have their faith in Brandon Halverson, but always good when your goalies are healthy. So good to see for this team. Kind of in a different lineup note, we saw somewhat of a new combination up front. We have seen it in limited minutes, but they made a big impact last night. We saw Dominic James and Jake Guentzel play some minutes together up front. We weren't sure what to expect for the forward lines last night. Can I say that last night for 2 p.m. game? Yesterday afternoon? What do I call that? Last noon? Is that a thing? Can I make that up right now?
Last noon. What a great
last noon.
Just let's keep that one. Let's table that one. Last noon. All right. Okay.
Last noon. Combined for 2 goals on Sunday. And it seemed like a very productive combination. Obviously, Dominic James played just over 11 minutes, so it wasn't a usual top 6 combination per se, but it was very good. And obviously, we know Dominic James is a very speedy forward, and Jake Guentzel is just so smart with and without the puck. We saw a rebound goal for Jake Guentzel, and Dominic James with a great shot after a little give and go with Jake Guentzel. I had a lot of fun watching those two play together, and you got to see it all in person. I know you talked to both of them. And then it also allows for Nikita Kucherov to play with Brandon Hagel and Anthony Cirelli. So with Braden Point out all of a sudden, we'll see what those forward lines look like when the team returns for tomorrow's game on Tuesday. What do you think? You got to talk to both the guys in person. I thought it was great. We'll see if it sticks. But Dominic James and Jake Guentzel looks like it could be maybe some found money here.
Right. Like, so the silver lining sometimes, as we see when guys go out, is like seeing the opportunity for other guys to play together and seeing what might be there that maybe you might not have seen had someone else be in the lineup. Obviously, you never want anyone injured, but it gives an opportunity. And so I remember when Dominic James scored that goal and I was like, wait a second. I'm like, Guentzel and James? I was like, what? I was like, what's going on there? And then it was like noticing that was obviously an incredible play. Like, James getting it out of the zone, getting it to Guentzel, then back, and he's like driving the net. And I thought was fascinating was just like his shot. Like he just decided to shoot, right? Boom, bingo, bango, bongo. And talking with James after the first period, he had said like, I actually wrote it down. He's like, I like to move my feet and he likes to make plays to find me. Boom. That's great. Because like, as you mentioned, Jake Guentzel is a really smart player. And I mentioned in the broadcast against Pittsburgh, but when I was talking to Billy Guerin about Guentzel, because I was like, hey, we got to even out the broadcast a bit. Like we got a lot of Canadian content on here, obviously. So
I like it. Get some USA in there.
Team USA. And he's like, he has such an elite brain, right? Like, and Billy Guerin had said just in the draft room back like in 2013, everyone was kind of like, well, Guentzel's like a small guy. And they're like, but he is like the hardest working guy, the smartest guy. He sees plays like happen like in like 10 steps before anyone else kind of thing. And you can definitely see that out there, right? Like if he's really good at understanding what Dominic James is good at, then he can be such a good conduit for helping him. And then to that same point, when then I talked to Jake, the same thing, he's like driving the net. He's driving the net in the middle lane and backs off their defense. Okay, so basically Jake also noticed the fact that Dominic was doing well. But an interesting point, and again, not trying to name drop on this because I just said Billy Guerin, but when I talked to Mark Messier a long time ago, he told me when they won the Cup in '94, like the biggest credit he gives to that Cup winning team and to any Cup winning team are the guys that get 5 to 7 minutes a night, the guys that don't always get the first or second line attention, because when they go out on the ice, like every single play, they have to be 120%, right? Like they cannot make a mistake, but they also have to show that they deserve more ice time because or else they're not even going to get on the ice at all. And so he's like, those guys are the hardest working guys. And so whenever I see someone like a Dominic James be able to sort of crack into maybe, let's say, into the top 6 in a game like that, or playing with Guentzel, it's like that just proves that he's working his butt off, but also the coach trusts him, right? Because as we know, the one thing that you can control and the message that you can kind of send to players if you're a coach is by ice time. You give them more ice time, you give them more opportunity to score, you give them more opportunity to succeed. You don't give them ice time, that takes that away a lot of the time. And that also reflects how you're doing and also how the team is doing. So right now I would say if it ain't broke, don't break it. Like have them continue to work together, but also we know that it's on a shift to shift basis, game to game basis, but like within the game, you monitor that kind of stuff. And obviously, John Cooper is really very good at understanding that. But I think like when you find that chemistry, just ride it.
And obviously that came against one of the best teams in the entire NHL, a team that
Exactly.
has real Stanley Cup aspirations, much like the Lightning. You know, like it's not like they're doing this against a team that's rebuilding. Like this was a top of the caliber NHL teams, right? Like this is another team that has Stanley Cup aspirations. And when you're a guy like Dominic James in your rookie season and you're getting trusted with those minutes, that's a really good sign. And, you know, we talk about when you're playing with a top player, we talked about this on the in-game broadcast a couple of games ago. Like, it's not easy to play with a top player like Nikita Kucherov or Jake Guentzel. You know, somebody might assume like you're playing with those top guys, just go to the net. That is not an easy job, right? Like you have to get trusted with those minutes. It's not as simple as, oh, it's, you know, you're playing with the top guys, just giving them a puck. You have to get trusted with those minutes. You really do.
Yeah, and also like giving them the puck is very difficult because that's what
You have
Gage
to know where they're going to be.
told me. Yeah, Gage basically told me, he's like, we kind of like pre-scout like where Kucherov is going because then we know where he wants the puck. Like we have to basically watch the best player on our team to see, okay, he likes to he's going to that spot right now. That means that's where he wants the puck. So you kind of, not only are you watching the other team, but you're also watching how the best players on your team are doing. And they're not going to be holding your hand if you're a young guy being like, okay, Dominic James, come on over here and, you know, make sure you pass me the puck over here. It's like you got to be on it. You got to be aware. You got to be watching where these guys are going because time is going so fast as you see these plays are happening. So hard to play with the best players. And they're also used to certain things happening, right? Like if they're used to having a pass come to them in this certain way, blah, 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 blah. And if you're new to that and you're kind of like, okay, right? Like it's like if you're performing, say we're on a broadcast, like on a national level, right? And you're working with certain people and they expect a certain level of how you are going to be setting them up for like a question, or you're going to be talking to them and you're maybe not at that level yet. Like you don't, just because I just say if I'm working with like the best people in television hockey broadcasting doesn't mean I'm going to be the best at that moment, right? Like you have to figure out how to get up to that level.
Yeah. Which brings us to the Blue Line segment, which once again, we had some great questions. For those of you wondering how to submit questions, you can give us a call at 813-301-6749. And we will also post questions each week, both on X and Blue Sky. So you can look out for those there. What also helps a team on the road is some good local Lightning fans on the road. And we had plenty of them in Dallas. Michelle wants to know, when there is a big group of Lightning fans like there was today, thanks to the Bolt for Life trip on the glass pregame, do the players notice or are they too game focused? I'm told we had almost 200 Bolt for Life members at the game. Julie, I know you did your homework here. What do you think? Did the players notice?
100% they noticed. And not only did they notice, I think everyone noticed there at the rink. I mean, I came out there and I was like, wow, you can really tell the Tampa vibes here are overwhelming compared to Dallas. But for players, talking to them, I've asked Nate Thompson many times, obviously former Lightning player who was on this past broadcast, but like, do you notice people in the stands or do you notice this? And he told me 100% that they notice, they will notice fans. Like, I don't know if you guys saw this, there was a really cute video I saw on Instagram about a cat. No, I'm joking. Haha. It was, it was a player on, the Devils doing rock, paper, scissors with like someone in the crowd for a puck. Like the girl was like, hey, if I win rock, paper, scissors, she had to sign up. Will you give me a puck? And like a player just during warm up saw that and then ended up just doing that. And it was really kind of pure, sweet moment. So for the fact that like, yes, these players saw the Bolts for Life fans, they feel that. And I think that it's underrated the impact that having fans like that on the road does to a team, because it's like you score and it's not just silent, right? Like normally as it
Yeah.
would be. And so that has like such a great, it's like having like your friends and family there when you do something good and you're like looking back and you see them cheering for you, and it's a really good feeling. So to all the Bolts for Life fans that were there, thank you for your support, because it definitely, all of that energy helps transfer on the ice and the guys notice it. So you can rest assured that you were a part of that as well.
Okay. That's a great answer. And from great answer to another great question that I have been trying to mull over for the last several weeks, as I'm sure many fans, and I'm sure you have as well, Julie. Guentzel for Life wants to know, with a fully healthy team, what do you think the defensive pairings on this team look like? And this is such a great question, because suddenly the Tampa Bay Lightning have 8 to 9 defensemen that probably deserve to be playing in this NHL lineup, as we've seen with all the injuries. So many different guys have stepped up. And like I said, I have been playing this game of mix and match in my head for the last probably 3 weeks. And I can't find the right match right now, because so many guys can play in different spots and there's too many options, which is a great problem to have. Waivers are complicated, and I think that's where we have to start, because as of right now, the 2 guys that are waiver exempt, which means you can send them down to Syracuse without them having to go on waivers and have the chance of another team claiming them, are Charles-Edouard Dastou and Max Crozier. Now, the issue with that is Charles-Edouard Dastou and Max Crozier have both established themselves as very capable full-time NHL options this year, and you just re-signed Charles-Edouard Dastou to a 1-year contract extension, and Max Crozier is one of your few right-handed options on this blue line, which makes things very complicated. Declan Carlisle will have to clear waivers again. He has cleared waivers once already this year. I would assume that he's probably one that gets reassigned if we do get everybody healthy, knock on wood. Hopefully everybody is healthy at some point again this year. Emil Lilleberg was playing the best hockey of his career before his injury. His return is expected to be February, the last we had heard. So hopefully we see him in very short order. I don't know how, but it's almost February. Do you split up Radish and Moser
No.
when everybody's healthy?
No,
I don't know
no.
how you can, because they're playing phenomenal hockey right now on both ends, defense and offense. So then because before it was some combination of Hedman, Moser, and then Radish originally to start the year was kind of that 7th defenseman. I honestly don't have a good answer for you for this question, because you have so many different options. I think you probably go some combination of Radish, Moser. I think Hedman, Crozier, possibly, with McDonough, Chernak. And then I think the real question then is, it's some idea of Dastou or Lilleberg based on the matchup, but then you have 8 NHL defensemen.
Right.
I
think
it's such an
Ben, I'm going to stop
injuries.
you there for a second.
Yeah. Okay. Let's hear it.
I think we may be getting a little ahead of ourselves in terms of timing and certain when guys are coming back, and then add into the Olympics, right? So I know that Julie and Breezewa has obviously looked at every single possible situation, right? Like all of these different guys, all the different combinations, but then also knowing that in 2+ weeks, 11 players on this team are going to be going to the Olympics, including Hedman. And Victor Hedman wanted to make sure Sweden knew he was skating, really, because, doesn't want to mess that opportunity up, as a lot of guys don't. And so, and also JJ Moser going for Switzerland. And I think I agree with you. I think you don't change up Moser and Radish, but I'm not necessarily sure when we hear John Cooper say like Ryan McDonough, we're looking at more of like a longer term overall career play. I'm not sure what that means, like in terms of timing. I'm thinking that's after the Olympics, but then you also have the trade deadline coming up pretty quickly after the Olympics. So this the Olympics makes everything a little bit
Yes,
obtuse.
it's
Okay. So
tough.
and because we also don't know what might happen at the Olympics, not, God forbid, obviously everyone stays healthy, all that kind of stuff. But like we're just not sure what's gonna happen. And like there's just so many different scenarios. So I think that I I would be hesitant to I'm hesitant on having a return date for McDonough and Lilleberg just because of how it's been discussed. Hedman, I do believe, with Crozier, but then yeah, Crozier, I guess. I was leaning toward Dastu, but then like the right-handed situation is very important.
And
Isn't it
again,
crazy to have this many like
it's a
it's
good
like
problem to have
embarrassment of riches?
because
Yeah.
nobody's been bad. Like that's the thing is everybody has done their jobs. And even again, like I said, I would probably say Declan Carlisle is the odd man
Right.
out. And it's not to his fault, right? Like
No.
you'd be happy to keep Declan Carlisle up here.
Right. The fact that he has to clear waivers is not good because
No, like right, like that's
I don't think he would clear them this time. There's
it's tough.
enough teams that probably need some defensive depth that they would be like yoink.
It stresses me out. It really does. It stresses me out a little bit. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think John Cooper made the joke the other day, like, I'm glad I'm not the one that has to make those kind of decisions about like, waivers and stuff like that. A couple of weeks ago when asked about roster moves, like
Yeah, or was it Breezeball that said like I'm glad I don't have to coach
their
the team or
lineup. You're right.
something like that?
Correct. You're right. It was Breezeball about the lineup.
Both
decisions
of them
with the
are like,
lineups.
I'm glad I
Yes.
don't have to decide the
Yes.
roster. I'm glad I
Yes.
don't have to coach
Yes.
the team. They're in their right
Yes. Right.
positions, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I think we cross that bridge when we get there.
Yes.
But right
And
now
again,
it's definitely one to mull over. And I'd say that at least you and I are in lockstep in that we believe the Moser Radish situation is we would keep it intact if we were part of the front office and coaching staff, and then also Radish on the PP. Do not change it. Do not
Right.
let that booming slap shot from the point go anywhere.
Well, again, like we just said, there are people that have the jobs they do for a reason, and I think we both have the jobs that we have for a reason. So don't let us touch the lineup card. How about that?
Agreed. Cosign.
With that said, the people at Penelope Bourbon have the job that they have for a reason, and they are a proud partner of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Whether you're cheering at Benchmark International Arena or you're raising a glass at home, Penelope brings fans together. One pour, one moment, one win at a time. You can find Penelope Bourbon at Publix or right here in the arena. Go Bolts, which brings us to the plus minus segment to round out today's podcast. Julie, let's hear it. Your plus for this week's podcast. What is your plus?
My plus is the speed of recovery for this team. And I think that as that's a hallmark of any great team is being able to bounce back when things maybe don't necessarily go your way. And that can be in game when they're down 2 against St. Louis and then they have 2 power play goals and it's a completely different game. And then they're down one goal against Dallas and then they score 4 unanswered. And I think in life and on ice, something happens, the speed of recovery shows you how good you are at being successful in the long term.
That's a great plus. Okay.
What about you?
My plus is going to be Hockey Talks night on Tuesday.
Oh, great. I do really appreciate that as well. Yeah.
I think that even in 2026, mental health is so important. And I feel like, especially in the hockey realm, we don't really give it as much air as it probably should get. And I feel like that's on it. Like, it's kind of just the atmosphere that we live in, right? Like, I mean, it's an 82 game season. You just kind of trudge on, right? It's how it works. And mental health is something that, as I've talked about on this podcast before, as I've written about over the course of my career, it's impacted me. I've lost people in my life to suicide, to mental health issues. It's something that affects everybody. put it this way. There's going to be a story coming out this week on the Tampa Bay Lightning website, probably Tuesday. Tampa Bay Lightning captain Victor Hedman is doing something pretty special for Hockey Talks Night to raise awareness for mental health in the Tampa Bay area. And this organization cares a lot about mental health. And I just think the fact that the NHL does so much for mental health and still has an initiative like this, and the fact that it is a league-wide initiative, I think that's pretty remarkable because it's not something they have to do. But I just think the fact that the NHL does have Hockey Talks Night, I think it's something that should be celebrated because it's not something that they have to do, but I think it is something that needs to be shed some light on. And I think that should have its moment every year. So I'm glad that they do have this night every year to try to bring some more awareness.
Ben, that's great. And I'm really glad to hear that you've got a piece coming out with Victor Hedman and how much that you also have been behind this cause. And I want to tell everyone out there, might not know me, but like I'm very much behind mental health awareness, being able to have these discussions. Nick Paul had a great quote the other day, just saying like the more that you talk to people about what's going on in your life and mental health issues, like the more it feels other people feel like they can open up too about stuff. And so I always like to let people know, like, you know, I struggle with like generalized anxiety, depression, all these different things. And I think that the more that we can normalize talking about it, and anyone listening to this podcast, like, you know, you're not alone in any of these different things. And so many of us, we think everyone else is doing so much better than they are, but like all of us and everyone is dealing with something. And so I think that obviously having that kind of empathy, having that kind of kindness towards others, it's you know, it just helps each one of us get through the day. Like we're just all just trying to be happy and live a happy life. And so I think that understanding that people are dealing with things in many different ways is one way to kind of help open up the conversation and open up, you know, the love to everyone. So
yeah, it touches everybody either directly or indirectly. It impacts everybody in some way. So thank you very much for opening up and sharing that. So with that, Julie, what is your minus this week? I know that's a terrible transition.
Yeah,
but what is your
minus? Well, I just talked to you guys about my anxiety. What is my anxiety on today? No, jokes. It's not something to joke about. Or sometimes it can be. I was a comedian once. You probably don't know that.
Is that your minus? That you were a comedian?
I have a stint as a stand-up comedian back in 2019, and nobody would ever guess that because why? I'm not funny. But I learned how to do stand-up. No, so my minus was it just would have been really nice for Gage Gonzalez to score that shootout goal on his birthday. Me and him both were just like, shucks, that would have been a good, you know. But other than that, he had a great birthday. It was his 25th birthday he celebrated, which then reminded me just how old I am when I'm around these guys that like you think you're the same age as them, and then you're like, oh wait, no, you're like a baby when I'm wearing my 2010 Vancouver Olympics hat. And I'm like, yes, I was at it. And they're like, wow, you were at that? Like you were old enough to be there? I'm like, oh yeah, I was. So yeah. Anyway, just that one little moment would have been great. But hey,
did they at least tell you they liked your hat?
Yeah, they did. I've gotten a lot of respect. They're like, wow, like you have that hat from Vancouver 2010.
There you go.
I'm like, yeah, I've got a pretty cool hat, guys.
It's all about perspective. There we go. My minus, and this was tough, which is I guess a good thing. My minus is going to be the other day I was having like a pretty brutal day. Like I was trying to put together the game notes, my InDesign. Like I had the game notes done pretty early. My Adobe crashed and lost the whole thing, which is on me for not saving halfway through, you know, like I'm always pretty good about that. And I'm always so good about that. I hadn't saved, had to restart. So I was so rattled. And I was like, you know what? I deserve a coffee. Drove to my favorite coffee shop, got in the drive-thru, and the line was like 16 cars deep. And I was like, you know what? I can't do this. Turned around to drive home. And all of a sudden I was stuck between the car behind me and like, I couldn't like get out of the drive-through. So then I had to like sit in the drive-through before I could get out. And so I was stuck in the drive-through and I couldn't get my coffee. And it was just this brutal moment of like, you deserve this for not saving. And my minus is that I all of a sudden was in this like horrible midday crisis of save your files, people. And
Ben.
yes,
Yikes.
it was self induced, but let's just say that for tomorrow's game notes file, I think I've hit the save button about 45 times. So
I would have thought it would have saved automatically.
Well, still it did, but the issue was that it saved at like like I'm sure you've looked at our game notes file how many times, but so I was like 5 game notes in. And for those who have never looked at a game notes file, there's typically anywhere from like 12 to like 16 different game notes. So I had like 6 game notes in there. And when it was completed, that game had like 16 game notes. So I was like basically starting, like it had all the data and all the charts and and it had updated all of like the last game. Yeah, it was. So save your files, people. That's my minus. Today I will not have to start over.
Ben, every opportunity is a moment that you can grow and learn from it, and I think that is something that you experienced with that. And also, I will say, the motivation that you had after experiencing such a crushing defeat, for you to get into your car to go get a coffee is something to be congratulated for. Sure, you didn't get the coffee and that whole thing happened, but I would have just probably torn my apartment like down and been like really stomping around. Not like, all right, I'm gonna go do something else.
We got there. You know what? The game notes, it was all on time. We got her done. So that's all that matters. But
one thing, let me tell you, it'll make you feel a little better, was I wrote a 22-page pharmaceutical essay when I was in university, and I didn't back it up, and my computer got stolen out of my house that I shared, and nothing else. The only things that got stolen were my computer and our GoldenEye N64 game, which is the best one of, if anyone has played it. I remember being so I didn't back up that 22-page pharmacology project. I literally had a mental breakdown, and I wrote the whole thing that night again. And then they told me, oh, Julie, we would have given you an extension. And I was like, I really wish I had asked you guys about that.
Okay, that is very traumatic.
So we've all been there. We've all been there.
That is, okay. That's a traumatic experience. What's not traumatic, however, is the play of the Tampa Bay Lightning, which we hope they will continue.
Great segue.
And with that, the Tampa Bay Lightning will return home on Tuesday for Hockey Talks night when they take on Macklin Celebrini and the San Jose Sharks. We cannot wait to see you all at Benchmark International Arena. Thank you guys so much for listening to a lengthy edition of Into the Blue presented by our friends at Penelope Bourbon. We appreciate you guys so much. Bye.
Bye.